That was especially awful. Even for me, that was bad. Oh no. Okay, I think we're about there. I think we're about there. Lunch. Here it comes. Live from the Crescent Moon Temple. It's the morning show with your host, Tolinar. It's time to play the music. Switch all of the cameras on. It's time for the morning show, and I'm going it alone. Just quickly check the chat room. Newbie visited us very briefly, but he had to go on. It's time for the morning show, and I guess I'm on my own. Cue cameras. The host, the guest, the audience, it's what I'm here to be. There's no one even, who the heck are you? Elite streamers is spamming me. You might have an amazing offer, and I've got an amazing joke. Why would anyone pay for someone to sit around when I'm broke? Anyways, here we are. Da 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 da. Here's your reply. Sorry, bucko. I don't think so. Get out of my sight. We're not doing that tonight. What are you doing? Oh no. Oh no, no. There's no one even out there. This all depends on me. I'm not paying some AI jerk to put AI bots in my chat. I think I'd rather suck a dog. It doesn't sound good, and that's that. The host, the guest, the audience, it's what I'm going to be. I don't need someone out there. This all depends on me. And that's nothing unusual. This is just another day. If I want to make my life great, I've got to do it my own way. Today on the morning show, we'll have our first horticultural review as we look through the potato and discuss the concept of genius. Wow, big topics today. Play me to the desk. That's right, I'm defeating that spammer. Boy, do I have an option for you. How about no? What the dongle is your deal, bro? I've got an amazing offer for you. Why would anybody pay for something like that? No. Today's morning show is brought to you by the letter G, the number 7, and by viewers like me. Because, brother, I'm it. Yeah, that's right. Keep on walking. So I just watched Spider-Man get yanked around between some stupid guy wearing a costume, being stupid, getting yanked around between two heavy machines. He thought that if he used the weight of his... Oh gosh, I feel so awful for this guy. Really dumb. But pretty funny. All right, let's get on with the morning. We laughed at the internet. Start the tea. I'm thirsty. that though, we have to start the water. Okay, find my water pitcher. Get a reload going on it. Today is the 31st of January. It's the very last one. About to run out. No more January. The moon cycle is slowly closing as well. It's time to rotate my calendar's page. So let's take it down. This month has been a month of non-progress progress. You know what I mean. All right, move it like so. There we are. That's right. Beautiful. So, I have to write in my schedule for the coming days, which I believe is off. Let me see, according to my visual reminder, which if I can get it facing correct, maybe it won't crank around. Wednesday, Thursday is my next set of off days. That's going to be these two. Okay. Fortunately, I've got a nice busy work schedule, which I love. Okay. I have to deal with taxes soon. It's getting to be about that time. I have to deal with all of the usual fees and complex stuff that happens around this time as well. So, we'll start by performing an update to my calendar. All right. We're looking pretty good here. All things considered. February is a short month. Only 28 days. Ninth moon starts on the 17th. I would be really elated if I could get my stream all the way updated with high quality overlay, awesome animated gear, and everything by that day. January I'm going to remember as the month that my mic is too close to my neck. It keeps touching my neck. Sorry about that, folks. Let's move it down. Let's move it down. Okay. I'm going to remember January in particular as the month that I played Blueprint. It was an excellent game. I would have kept playing it for another few months, but Blueprint is a lonely game. You're the only person there. I spend my life in a lonely capacity. So the idea of a lonely game is something of not necessarily desirable for me. And honestly, having a community really helped with that feeling. When the community decided that I was not worth being in that community, you know, maybe I've chosen incorrectly. All right. Okay. I'm gonna do that. That's right. So, let's talk about what genius is, shall we? What is genius supposed to be? We hear about it, we think, oh wow, that's so far away and that's amazing and this person is beyond our understanding. But what really is genius? How can you have it? How can you do it? How can the average person ascend to such lofty heights as the great thinkers of our age? What even is genius? We know when we touch it, that's for sure. But how does one exist as a genius? What does that even mean? As a clinical genius, I believe I am well espoused to explain this one. So, let's get into it. Let's start with what a thought is. Thoughts break down into complex networks, right? It's actually lots and lots of small connections. Our associations from A to B with a quality is how we understand the world. So, what happens is we have a very big network of small elements, and for each element, we say A is to B via quality. Now, it can be higher or lower. For example, the numbers 1, 2, 3 go higher by 1, higher by 1, higher by 1. We have a sequence now, a number sequence. We can form more complex connections. 6 and 3, that's a times 2 connection there. We know how that one works too. We can take things that are red and orange. These are visible, they're colors. We know there are these different connections. Everything is connected to something else. The host is connected to the guests, is connected to the audience. This is a pattern. It's what I've got to be, forming the song lyrics, right? The host, the guest, the audience. It's what I've got to be. And the words form a sequential pattern in the mind, from A to B to C. That's how we get to D. But the mind can do so much more than memorize sequences. By forming huge webs and cascades of analogs, connections from A to B, it can start to understand the overarching patterns between all of the different elements. One can start to imagine the larger framework, a bigger context. In order to solve problems, by using connections and associations to figure out the physical heuristics of the world, and possibly by associating one thing to another, a person can come to understand the world more deeply and more accurately. The more numerous these connections are, the more one person's knowledge can be said to be growing. You know a lot if you have many connections of many types. Now, a person who has creative thinking will be able to, oh, I'm getting liked by somebody. I don't know what to say about this. This guy, I'm not sure. Okay. I think it's just somebody nice. Somebody who's just trying to be polite. Well, thank you. It's not working, but thank you. Somebody's reposting my I'm streaming now stuff. Well, no one cares that I'm on the air. Okay. No one needs to care. So, as these connections grow more numerous, a person can be said to have more knowledge. What makes a person intelligent is when they're very good at forming new connections that are correct. When a person is capable of making pretty large leaps in logic and associating a connection to another connection they've already made. When a person is able to when a person is able to work out how different things are connected. The ability to make connections, to make associations between disparate elements, and to see the patterns. Pattern recognition is another big element of this. One can be said to be a genius. The more you look at patterns, the easier it gets. The more patterns you have to draw from, the easier it gets. All measure of human knowledge is based on human knowledge. So a genius is, of course, someone who is not only well-versed in our knowledge, but can make tremendous application of it. Someone who can use knowledge, find answers quickly and efficiently. Pretty good. Yeah. Wow. All right. So I think I've gone over the idea. Now, the title of this set is called rh-Ond, okay? What is rh-Ond? So rh-Ond is a word I discovered when I was in my 20s doing laundry. Rh-Ond is an alien word. So because it comes from another species, an alien, it's an alien language word. It can be difficult to describe what it means. So I'll do my best, but there's limits to what I can explain here. First off, I'm not pronouncing it right, okay? I'm doing my best. It's English. It's RH, and then a soft O, and then kind of an N, and then a DT, and then there's a click and a whir and a bit of a vibration. And it's difficult to describe exactly how this goes, but it's like rh-Ond, like that. And that's about as close as I can get us to it. Let's see here. Well, what does it mean? What does it mean? How can I explain what this means? So, why don't I describe how you write the word? I think that might be useful for understanding it. Okay, first off, you should know that unlike human English, alien languages are written in 3 dimensions, not 2. They don't use paper, not anymore. Instead, they write messages in 3D space. So, the word starts off with a circle and a dot in the middle of it, and then a line extending towards the top of the circle. The line is actually a ray. But as you can imagine, this is actually a sphere. So it's drawn as a sphere with a point in the middle, and then an arbitrary point set somewhere in the circle. There's a line segment extending to that point, and then forming a ray that extends to the top of the sphere. I think that's pretty good. The ink color, well, it's black, but also other colors. It has a tendency to change colors. Not only that, but you can smell the ink, and the scent is constantly changing. And the sound of the ink is changing, and the texture, the feel of the ink is also changing. So it's this canvas of all colors and feelings and all these other sensations, right? Basically, it's just this huge mass of sensations. And the outer part of the sphere is all of these things. And then there's just this simple black line going from the center to a line segment, and then up to touch the sphere. It almost touches, but it doesn't quite touch, but it almost touches the sphere. As for what it means, rh-Ond is, when you take knowledge you have and use it to understand something that is foreign and different. This is the moment of eureka, when you use a simple point inside of you and arbitrary data to form a connection with the outside world, detailed, beautiful, and horrifying, and gain understanding by noticing a pattern. rh-Ond is the moment of genius. It is eureka. It is the moment when the connection happens. And if you understood my explanation to this point, you may have just experienced it, because that's how alien writing works. It teaches by doing. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Let's get on with it, shall we? So, let's discuss the potato, the humble potato. The potato is our first horticultural spotlight item. We're going to do these every single day for the next 700 days until I run flat out of plants to do this for. And I will have a powerful, powerful horticulture book. Okay, the average potato serving is 0.3 pounds. I'm eating closer to 0.6 pounds, which is a big spud. So, assuming you are feeding one person once a week, that's 0.6 pounds a week. The most you can eat is probably closer to, as usual, 5 times that. Eating potatoes 5 times a week, 3 pounds. 3 pounds. So, for monthly eating, occasionally having potato, you need about 2 pounds for a month, maybe 3. 12 pounds heavy eating for a month, just consuming potatoes constantly, you're going to need about 12 pounds. You can store potatoes for 2 months, and then they sprout out. If you spend 2 hours freezing them into French fries and other forms, then they'll stay another 2 months as well. Potatoes can be grown from March up to maybe July, a span of 5 months, and they can stay in the ground a little bit too. So, the potato's GDD, or growth degree day, has a base of 45 and requires 2050. What that means is they need the heat from the day equal to 2050 degrees per hour, where you subtract the base 45 from the actual temperature. So if it's 60 degrees outside for the hour, then the potatoes have gained 15 degrees. The total degrees gained per day are tracked and requires at least 2050 on average in order to reach full growth. Max temperature for a potato is 86. If it exceeds 86 degrees, then potato growth slows down and stops because it can't handle the heat. Okay? During their first month of development, potatoes need light water, just enough to keep the soil moist. For the second month, they need a nice heavy amount of water, about 1 inch per week, maybe a little more. During the third month, as they're flowering, they need to be heavily fed. This is when the tubers are being put on. You need to water like crazy, as well as provide more fertilizer. Then, after you go past day 90, you want to lower the water as the plant yellows and dies back. This will help the plant's skins firm up. Potatoes are unique in that you're eating tubers. These are not roots, but rhizomes attached to the bottom, but you might as well think of them as roots. They're basically attached to the roots. They're root parts, rhizomes, so you're eating those, okay? Potatoes require full sun to succeed, 6 to 8 hours of it. If there's not 8 hours of sun, your potato's not gonna grow now, is it? No. The light level is too low before about March. Before March, it's just not gonna happen. Okay. You can hill your potatoes. This is very important because direct sunlight ruins potatoes. Potatoes naturally develop solanine, or a light-resistant anti-something. It's a nightshade chemical. They do that in order to improve their own growth and health, but it's not good for digestion. It makes it poisonous. So yeah. You have to hill to protect tubers. Tubers must never touch the sun. You need about 500 to 700 lumos. Anyways, pH 5 to 6.5. Many people say 5.5 to 6 is the sweet spot. A little bit acidic. This is mainly because acid will help the potato take up nutrients well as acidic soil is a little bit easier to manage scab. That's a disease that doesn't like it so well. Potatoes are a very heavy feeder. They need nutrients. They take a lot of nutrients. A single acre of potatoes, we're talking 200 pounds nitrogen, 60 pounds phosphorus, 300 pounds potassium. Potatoes are loaded with potassium. It's delicious. The plant, in its full and glory, will hold about a third to a half, maybe even 2/3 of the nutrients. Everything else is locked in the tubers. And when the tubers leave the soil, the nutrients leave the soil, meaning that potatoes rapidly deplete soil, and the soil will need to be replenished after potatoes grow in it, because it'll just be eaten out. Okay. You have to have about half of the fertilizer present before or at planting. The rest can be added gradually towards the end as the potato transitions into its heavy growth stage. Potatoes need sand to loam. The soil should be loose and drain well. Potatoes are susceptible to rot if they are constantly exposed to water. You want to avoid clay soils for this reason. It needs to have good drainage. It shouldn't trap water. It helps to have manure. Potatoes will push soils out of the way in order to grow themselves. They're slow and persistent. So as long as there isn't a whole lot of rocks, you'll be okay. And even if there are rocks, you're just going to get small potatoes. It'll be fine. Potatoes need quite a bit of space. An individual plant needs 12 inches to its nearest neighbor, and it helps to have 3 foot of row space because that will dramatically improve the amount of sunlight each plant gets. If you don't provide this, then your potato yield will diminish significantly. So you want to make sure you have enough space between your plants. Failing to do this will give you small tubers, a small yield, a disappointing potato. Potatoes need help with weeds early on because they are late to come out of the ground. This is because as a rhizome, they are cloned and they emerge from the tuber. This can take upwards of a month. 2 weeks, 3 weeks as the potato forms rhizome shoots and sends them up and out. They're really rather deep under the soil, and they want to be as deep as they can get down there so that they have access to a good strong pool of nutrients. Now, potatoes have a good battery to start with. They have their rhizome that they can consume to grow. This means that the potato will generally get a jump start on the season and can plant from pretty deep into the soil. However, in balance, this means that the potato tends to have a slow start each season, taking its time getting up out of the ground. And this means that it can be outcompeted by weeds early in the season. You need to focus on keeping the weeds down, usually by pulling by hand or hilling as the potatoes begin to emerge. Once hilling begins, then the soil will be disrupted fairly frequently as the potatoes gain size, and they should be okay. Once the potatoes reach middle age in the middle of the summer, they will have big, leafy, green canopies that will smother out most other plants. This canopy is actually really effective at weed control. Other plants like flowers that can tolerate shade can hang out, but for the most part, the potatoes will manage it themselves. They don't need help at that point. They got this. I think this bottle, yeah, this bottle is empty. This one. The standard potato. Right, that looks like about it right there. I think that's my 2. There we go. That's what I wanted right there. Pop, 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 it says. It's like, well, you're failing to screw me down. There you go. Delicious. I need my vitamin D pill too. So, potatoes have a significant disease problem. Okay? I will discuss this with you now. Potatoes are nightshades. For the longest time, we thought they were toxic. They can be, especially if they're green. The fruits should never be consumed. If a potato ever puts on berries, don't touch them or eat them. You should avoid touching them unless you wear gloves. They contain so much solanine that a couple will kill a man. Solanine is toxic. And potato berries are no safer than any other nightshade berry. But the rhizomes are perfectly safe, as long as they don't turn green in the sun. So, there is a problem with nightshades. They suffer from root disease, which is really quite difficult to manage. And it passes through the rhizomes from generation to generation. As a result, you need to deal with disease when it comes to potatoes. They have nematodes. And if you grow potatoes repeatedly in the same spot, the nematodes will cause disease in your potatoes and weaken them dramatically. You'll get smaller yields. The potatoes will be scabby and low grade. Your plant could even fail entirely. It's hard to say. It's always best to plant potatoes, tomatoes, and other nightshade members of the family into soil that has not harbored any nightshades for some time. Okay, potatoes are nutritionally competent, but because they're a member of the nightshade family, most people take it easy on how many they grow, because potatoes and tomatoes are soil greedy, and you have to keep rotating. Let's talk about companionship. Most herbs, we're talking basil, oregano, thyme, are good to go to grow with potatoes. Many people agree that they improve the taste of the potatoes. Horseradish also improves the taste of potatoes when grown alongside. There is one pest that you need to consider, the Colorado beetle. It is red and yellow streaked, and you'll know it when you see it. The beetles themselves don't eat much, but their eggs will demolish plants. Other problems you can have, mostly nightshades are less frequented by deer strikes and things, but if it's a hungry year, they can go after your stuff. Really, if you have problem with potatoes getting stolen, it's rodentia. The rabbits, voles, mice, rats, or in my case, gophers can get after it. If you live in specific places, gophers are your biggest enemy. They'll take up to a half of your harvest, eating the spuds right out of the ground. Against rodentia, your best defense is to use bags. Use containers. If you grow your potatoes in containers, they'll be perfectly content and you won't need more assistance. Against deer, try a fence, and if that doesn't work, you're out of luck this year. Generally speaking, if the deer are striking your nightshades, all hope is lost. You may have had a herd of elk come by, okay? It's not good. You should not let any of your own livestock consume nightshade. Try to your best to keep them out of it. All right, let's talk about growing potatoes. I mentioned earlier that potatoes are highly nutritious. If you consume the skin, they're one of the great balancing elements. If you ate only blackberries and potatoes, you could survive. The two complement each other that well. Potatoes contain loads of potassium and phosphorus and many other micronutrients. They take a lot from the soil. They give a lot of calories back. Potatoes are nutrient dense. A single potato has a lot of power to offer you. And for up to 6 pounds of potato per 10 square foot, if you think of 10 square foot as a square in Stardew Valley or about the size of a person, you can have a concept of how that is. 1 square, 10 square, can be 6 pounds potatoes. That's really good yield. You usually get about 1.5 pounds minimum and 6 pounds on a good yield. So if you get a heavy potato yield, just one of these is going to set you up. One plant is going to set you up for 3 months. You will have lots of potatoes. So let's talk about growing potatoes. Potatoes are self-pollinating. In particular, it doesn't even matter if potatoes are pollinated or not. If your potatoes fail to pollinate, they will still put on rhizomes and they will still yield. You will get your spuds under the ground because you don't need your plants to set fruit. However, let's say you want to grow potatoes from seed. There's one reason you may want to do that, and it's harder, by the way. Potatoes are a relatively trouble-free crop. I'll explain how you do it in just a minute, but if you want to grow from seed, you have to set this apart, and we have to talk about potato from seed, which is a very different exercise. Potato from seed is a little darling and has to be carefully nurtured. Potato as a rhizome can be chucked in the ground, covered loosely with soil, and almost forgotten. As long as it's watered at the right time and it's got some fertilizer to grow and it's growing in poop, it will be great. And you will come back in 110 days to a huge pile of food ready to rock, delicious and set. Anyways, let's get on with it. Potatoes are self-pollinating, so you don't have to worry about pollination. They are traditionally pollinated by bumblebees. The staves are self-vibrating, so a bumblebee will activate that. You can do the same thing with a toothbrush. If you cross-pollinate, you will end up with different potatoes, but this is actually also not necessary. Again, this is something that comes up if you grow seed potatoes, but potatoes have 4 strands of genetic information. So you're going to get some randomization in your spuds. There's no question. And if you're growing several types of potato in the same field, you'll get a good mix of cross-pollination, randomization, and you will have your variety. Let's talk about dealing with potatoes. Generally speaking, you want to grow seed potatoes if you are going to yield any significant amount. So let's talk about what your goal is for potatoes. If your goal with potato is curiosity or filler, if you are growing potatoes because you want to have some potatoes to round out your kitchen, and you have a pretty full garden growing already, and you have a spot that didn't grow any nightshades for the last few years, then you can use a grocery store potato that has begun to sprout, especially if you buy organic. If you've got some organic waxy or russet potatoes that you bought over the middle of the winter and they have not been eaten and they are starting to go to town, you can absolutely grow those. You should know that there are drawbacks to growing grocery store potatoes. Many drawbacks. Now, if you have the plan of growing hundreds of pounds of food, if you plan to feed a community, if you plan to support a family, a big family, 10, 12 people, with your potato yields, if you plan to sell your crops or any mix and match of these, you need seed potatoes. You need potatoes that were professionally grown to grow more potatoes. And I'll explain why. Grocery store potatoes, if you toss them in the ground when they start to sprout, are probably gonna grow potatoes. Yes, you will get a plant. There's very little question. Your potato is gonna come up out of the ground because life is stubborn. Now that it's started to go, it's gonna go. It will consume resources, it will sprout out, and you will get your spuds. But here's what you don't see. Your potato has been coated with a growth inhibitor. It's designed to keep the potato from sprouting for as long as possible. And this will make it harder to get your potato to start. So if you buy a potato from the store in the hopes of getting it to sprout, you could end up waiting too long. Your potato doesn't sprout, you don't get potato. Oh well. Or your potato has started to sprout, but doesn't grow very vigorously once it's in the soil. Because early on, while it's pushing out rhizome, it doesn't have its green parts yet. It doesn't sprout and set starter leaves like an ordinary plant. It relies instead on its rhizome, its power booster, to shove up out of the soil and put out plant. So that can happen too. You can get a very slow result, and that might not be ideal for you. Then there's the issue of generation. You see, when you take a potato and you toss it in the soil, you are not growing a new potato, you are cloning a potato. The C word. Bum, bum, bum. Yes, all potatoes, for the most part, are clones. You are growing an exact duplicate of the plant that put on the rhizome, because the rhizome will regrow that plant. Genetically, it will be identical. Sure, a true and unique plant will sprout out of the ground and it will have its own existence, its own problems, its own personality, but the founding elements, the genetic codes, will be identical. You will grow a clone. There's a catch though. Cloning is just like using a Xerox machine, and you can only do it so many times before the copies degrade to the point that they can't be used anymore. The first 3 or 4 times you clone, no problem. The imperfections are so small, no one would ever notice them. But 5, 6, 7, 8, now it's starting to wear thin. The ink color isn't correct. There are spots beginning to appear in the lines. The more times you clone a potato in this same way, the more seasons that you grow a potato, then use that clone to grow a clone, to grow a clone, to grow a clone, the genetic material gets weak. And as the genetics get weak, the potato, one, is poorly adapted to its environment now because the environment keeps changing and the potato does not. So it hasn't adapted proper disease control for the moment. And it hasn't adapted proper resistance to the pests. And it's going to be weak and vulnerable to drought, and vulnerable to overcrowding, and vulnerable to overwatering. And it'll get very flimsy. It won't be very vigorous, and it won't put on well. It won't deal with pests well, and it could be vulnerable to scabs and other diseases. The more generations that you go through this, the weaker the potato's blood gets, until finally it just can't do it anymore. The yields get smaller and smaller, and less quality, until finally the potato doesn't yield anything worthwhile, or just gets eaten, or dies before it can put anything on. That happens around generation 14. So, when you buy a potato from the grocery store, you have no idea which generation you're getting. But it's usually around generation 6 and up, because those first generations all go towards producing more generations. The first few years of seed potatoes are all put right back in the ground to produce more seed potatoes. Think about it this way. You grow a baby new seed potato from a seed. and it yields first generation potatoes of a high quality, nice big tubers, the texture is nice, the genetics are great. This is just the potato you want to grow. That's terrific. We love it. Well, for our terrific potato, we now need to clone it. Every last one of those goes towards growing more seed potatoes and then growing more seed potatoes. If you want to have a commercial crop, you have to multiply your potato over and over again until it's filling fields. That's going to take 4 to 5 years. So the first few years of generation are going all the best years for eating and toughness of potato are going straight into the ground. You're not going to see that unless you purchase seed potatoes. Now you're getting the good years. Seed potatoes will produce potatoes that can produce potatoes that can produce potatoes that can, that's right. Now you're on the bus early and your potatoes can be vigorous for generations. The other good reason for growing from seed potato: 1, not treated with any hormones to inhibit sprouting and usually carefully chosen and contained free from all disease and cross-contamination. The potatoes will be spotless. There will be no problems whatsoever with anything. For the most part, you know how it is. Shipping, but for the most part, your potatoes should be good. Once you have chosen your potato, if it has more than, I'd say 2 eyes on it, you can cut it up. Potato pieces need to be 2 to 3 inches. Now this is a decision for you to make as a gardener. If you leave the full potato, then one plant will put out tons of shoots when it only needs 2 or 3. You can also scrape the others off and point the ones that you want to keep vertically. That's also an option. Giving your potato a huge battery of rhizome energy will help it endure the toughest conditions, as well as put on huge foliage. This is a hack for if you don't have fertilizer, or if you're just tossing potatoes in the ground to make food at a minimum of cost. You absolutely want the whole potato. Scrape off all of the eyes except for the top 2, point the potato upwards so that the rhizomes will emerge from the top and go straight up into the sun. And put the whole spud in the ground. This will give your plant a battery, which will help it produce foliage early and grow vigorously in mid-season, so the sun can do the rest and you get a huge yield of spuds. It will still have some nutrient requirements and is definitely going to drain the land of everything it can get, but it'll have much better production. On the other hand, if your goal is to produce lots of potatoes over a wide area, then what you want to do is cut your potatoes to 2 to 3 inch pieces, where each piece has 2 to 3 eyes, and point those eyes upwards, as I mentioned. After cutting your potatoes, let them air dry for a few days so that it scabs over. Otherwise, you will invite rot and disease in your potatoes. This smaller piece is all that's actually needed. Once the lead vines reach the sun and the leaves come out, the potato will be fine. And if you provide lots of fertilizer or manure for the potatoes to grow in, it will draw on all those nutrients without a qualm. This allows you to get several potato plants from a single seed potato and literally multiply your harvest. It's much more efficient. If you've bought your seed potatoes and your goal is a huge yield, then yeah, you probably want to chit, C-H-I-T, your potatoes by cutting them. This will help your yield get bigger. So, we've got our potatoes, we dig a furrow into the ground, right? And then we place these tubers under the soil. About a foot or 2 down is fine. You want to make it so that the potatoes are completely covered from the sun and the sprouts are pointed upwards. As they come up out of the soil, you want to hill around them. There are 2 philosophies. The first is dump it on, spuds are tough. This is 100% true. You can just throw soil on your potatoes they will push their way up and out over and over again. This is one way to hill your potatoes, to convince them to keep pushing upwards. Another thing you can do is wait for them to come up and then hill around them. One thing is for sure, you definitely want to hill your potatoes at least once, and maybe as many as 3 times. Now, depending on the type of potato you have, many people think, oh, if I just keep hilling, it'll produce potatoes and produce potatoes all the way along the stem. Well, there's a limit to this. Your potatoes' energy from the greenery is going towards producing potatoes. Generally speaking, after the first hilling, you've boosted your yield as much as you're going to. And the real advantage to hilling is the same advantage to mulching. You're keeping the light off your spuds. So if you don't feel like hilling your potatoes, you can always give them a good mulch. Mulching helps by keeping the potatoes nice and moist in the times when they need it, and retaining heavy waters at the times that they're super thirsty during the heavy, hot summer. Mulching can make your potatoes exceptional, stand out. It's the secret hack. Lots of people hill their potatoes over and over, forming huge potato mounds, and this is a good way to get lots of room for your potatoes and lots of potatoes. 100% works. For indeterminate species, it works even better. Determinate species, not so much. So, potatoes enjoy having sunflowers around because they can actually do quite well with trellises. They like trellises. You don't want to have lots of tines in the soil because the potato might find those limiting for the rhizomes. It could interfere with the growth of a few things. But providing cages, trellises, and support plants like beans or, not beans, but sunflowers and other thick stem plants for it to climb can make your potatoes happy and successful. So, you can transplant potatoes, but only when they're super young. Once they're bigger than a couple of inches, they got to get out there. Because potatoes are a root type plant, disturbing them a lot is not cool. Okay? Direct sowing is ideal for spuds. Potatoes thrive when direct sown. As long as the spuds don't rot, as long as it's like March and the potatoes aren't going to get hard frozen or absolutely drenched with no drainage, they're going to be fine. They will just lay dormant until the time comes and then come up and out. Potatoes can be grown indoors. If you provide LED lighting, be aware potatoes are big, bulky plants. And if you try to grow them inside, they will take advantage of every inch. And you're going to have one big, pretty, but space-consuming houseplant. Pots work great for potatoes, especially dark-colored pots. Potatoes love to have warm roots, up to 80 degrees warm. They love having nice, hot soil. They want to keep the sun at a nice steady pace. They don't want to get burned. They don't want to be baked. But a big pot that provides lots of room to grow and nice warm soil can have incredibly good yields. In the same way, raised beds are great for potatoes. They'll take full advantage of that. Generally speaking, once you have your potatoes set, they're up and coming and the weeds have been controlled, maybe hill them once or give them a good layer of mulch, they're good to go. At that point, you just have to watch their water. They need an inch a week. And you might want to use a liquid fertilizer when the flowers emerge, or starting from about day 80 to 90. This is when the potato is bulking, putting on its tubers. It needs all the food it can get, and it needs water, water, water like crazy. Especially if it's been hot. This is when the potato tends to take advantage of the hot summer, and it's almost impossible to overwater. You can leave a sprinkler running as long as you've got good drainage, and your potato will just drink, 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 and get huge. This is also a good time to mention that if you are using a ratchet sprinkler that fires fairly heavy water overhead, it can actually cause the stimulation that shakes your plants and can cause berries to emerge. So that's a neat trick. Or you can just rely on the bees. They can do the job too, just fine. Once your potatoes' foliage has started to die back, then you want to wait a little while. You can cut them and leave them in the ground for up to a month to harden the skins for storage potatoes, or you can dig them out and eat them immediately. Basically, anytime past day 90, if you get hungry and you want a little tiny potato, you can yank one out and have at it. Now, 90 to 110 is strictly, those last 20 days, strictly when the potato is getting huge. That's when it's bulking. So you want to avoid taking too many at that time, but you can 100% eat them. Leave them in the ground. You can actually just leave them and cut the plants off. Leave them there. And unless you get really heavy rains or a frost, your potatoes will be okay. Dig them up using a turning fork. If you just turn the soil, the potatoes will tumble right out. They're heavier than soil, they'll break free, and you'll see how it works. Note that if you miss any potatoes, they will volunteer, which is both good and bad. One, your volunteer is now providing you with potatoes for the next year, cool. But it's also maintaining the disease in that part of the soil, which is not cool. So do your best to be thorough. Get those potatoes out of there. You cannot landraise potatoes unless you are growing from seed. Maybe we'll talk about growing potatoes from seed tomorrow. Boy, it feels good to talk about potatoes. I hope you've enjoyed the morning show, where we've gone over the basics of genius and everybody's favorite plant, the potato. So, covering the broad strokes. The potato is a high-yield plant with excellent nutrition. It is relatively trouble-free, but hungry. It's a root crop, a rhizome. Grown by cloning. Seed plants are more stable. So if you're getting a big harvest, go for that. And remember, soil rotation is key. Feed well. Keep the light off your spuds. And keep the water coming past day 90 when they're putting on the heavy bulk. Don't let your potatoes sit in water or they'll rot, and you're on your way to a great harvest. Well, thank you very much for watching my show. We made it all the way to the far line, didn't we? That's cool. See you next time.